What's the dumbest scam someone has ever tried on you? A guy tried to scam me out of $1 and $200 by pretending to be my dead husband's secret brother, but he picked the wrong widow to mess with. It started with an email from someone claiming to be David Miller, saying he was my late husband's half-brother from another marriage. He had this elaborate story about how their father had two families and they'd never known about each other. I was devastated when your husband Mark passed away last year, he wrote. I just found out through our father's estate papers. I would have come to the funeral if I'd known. The email came with photos of a man who looked somewhat like my husband, holding what appeared to be family documents. Here's the thing though, I've never been married. I'm 24 years old and single, but I was bored and curious to see where this obvious scam was heading, so I decided to play along. Thank you for reaching out, David. Mark's death was so sudden. Tell me about your memories of him growing up. This guy spun the most ridiculous story about childhood summers they spent together, fishing trips with their shared father, and how Mark always talked about his beautiful wife Sarah. My name isn't Sarah, but he kept going, getting more elaborate with each message. I found something in our father's house that belongs to you, he said after a few days of back and forth. Mark's wedding ring collection. Dad kept all his son's rings as family heirlooms. Wedding ring collection? What kind of person has multiple wedding rings? But I played along. Oh yes, Mark loved collecting rings. Tell me about them. He sent photos of expensive-looking rings, claiming Mark had specifically wanted me to have them if anything happened to him. The problem is, I'm traveling for work and can't afford to ship them safely. Could you help with shipping costs? Just $100 to cover insurance and expedited delivery. That's when I decided to have some fun with this idiot. I started asking about things that would trip him up if he'd done any real research. What was Mark's favorite food? I asked. He loved pizza, David replied confidently. Always ordered pepperoni. Great answer, except I'd never mentioned my fictional dead husband's food preferences anywhere online because he doesn't exist. I kept feeding him false information to see how far he'd go. Remember when Mark broke his leg skiing in Colorado? I asked, making it up completely. Oh, absolutely, he replied. That was such a scary accident. I was so worried about him. What about his pet goldfish, Mr. Bubbles? He died the same week as Mark. It was heartbreaking. Poor Mr. Bubbles, David responded. Mark loved that fish so much. He used to tell me stories about teaching it tricks. Teaching a goldfish tricks? This guy was really committed to the lie. I kept pushing. And remember Mark's job at the space station? He was so proud to be an astronaut. Yes, he always dreamed of space travel, David agreed enthusiastically. At this point, I was dying laughing. This scammer had just agreed that my fictional husband was an astronaut, but I wasn't done yet. What about Mark's twin sister, Jessica? She's been so helpful during this difficult time. Jessica's been amazing, he replied. Mark always said she was his best friend. They did everything together. The problem was, I'd never mentioned a twin sister. I'd literally just made her up. Finally, I decided to end the charade. David, I have a confession. I've been documenting this entire conversation because you're trying to scam someone who was never married. There is no dead husband named Mark. There's no goldfish, no twin sister, and definitely no astronaut career. You just agreed that my imaginary husband taught tricks to a goldfish and worked on the space station. You couldn't even be bothered to make your lies believable. The responses got increasingly desperate. Wait, maybe I have the wrong Sarah. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. But David, you specifically mentioned Mr. Bubbles the goldfish and Mark's space missions. I made both of those up in the last 10 minutes. The email account was deleted within hours. The dumbest part? He could have easily found real details about actual widows through obituaries, but he was too lazy to do even basic research on his marks. Some scammers really think people are stupid enough to believe their dead spouse was secretly an astronaut with a goldfish sidekick.
Check out this story. You will like it for sure.